Welcome all to SST Edupedia. I am Assistant Professor Swati Pillai and here we are going to discuss few topics related to information and network security of TYCS. So let's move on. The topics that we'll cover today are first the OSI architecture, second the security attacks, third the security services. Now let's see what is OSI architecture. OSI stands for Open Source Interconnection. So it is an organization that is developed for features in international standards. So it mainly focuses on the basic 3 points. First one is the security attacks. So it defines what all attacks can happen to your network. Second is the security services. It is used for securing our data, what all services the international board is providing us. Third is the security mechanism. So with these security services, how to implement it in our day-to-day life. So this is the tree structure of the OSI security architecture. First one is the security attack, second is the security mechanism, and third is the security services. So now let's move on to our first topic, that is security attacks. What are the types of attacks and further on. So security attacks are of two types. First one is the passive attack, second one is the active attack. So passive attack means an attacker or intruder just observes our communication or conversation. But an active attack, he changes and modifies our message. So first, our passive attack is divided into two. First one is release of message, it is also called as snooping. Second one is the traffic analysis. So basically passive attack aims to learn or make use of information from the system. So here is a diagram which analyzes and shows you what the passive attack is. So here there is a sender and a receiver. A sender is sending a message to the receiver, and what the attacker is doing, he is just observing the message that is being transmitted. Next we'll move on to the active attack. So what is active attack? As I initially told, it is modification or changing happened in our messages. So there are basically four categories of active attack. First one is the masquerade, second is replay, third is modification, and fourth is DOS, that is denial of service attack. So active attack aims to alter system resources. So here is a diagram. A sender is sending a message to the receiver, but what the attacker is doing is he modifies or changes the messages or content of our communication. So now let's see each and every part in detail. First is the passive attack, and the first category was snooping, that is release of message. So intruder listening to a traffic between two machines on your network, unauthorized access or an interception of data, means someone is observing our communication. So here our confidentiality is totally lost. So Bob is sending some message to Alice, but what Darth is doing, he is observing, he is listening to whatever communication is done between both of them. The second part of passive attack is traffic analysis. As the word analysis, it means analyzing the pattern in our message. So intruder listens to the traffic between two machines. It is similar to the previous one, but the difference is that he analyzes the pattern in our message, finds the similarities in the message patterns. So here is the diagram. When Bob is sending some message to Alice, what Darth is doing, he listens to the message as well as he analyzes what all patterns, similarities are there in the message. So I will show you a small example related to it. So here there is a concept of encryption and decryption. So I'll show you a small text and just see the pattern that is going to be happening. So can you see a text? UYCVKRKNNCK. Do it has any meaning in it? No, right? So just analyze its patterns. So N is repeated twice, K is repeated almost thrice. So it is a word which is having two similar alphabets or three similar alphabets. So I will tell you what this is. Now just look at the alphabets and its numerical values. A is 1, B is 2, C 3, and it goes on till Z, which is 26. So here I have used the Caesar cipher encryption algorithm. So what it does is my alphabet is shifted to 2 bits or 2 positions behind. So for example, I have taken U. So if you move the or shift the alphabet by 2, what happens is you will get S. And if Y is shifted 2, then you will get W. So now let's see the decrypted text. Swati Pillai, that is my name. So this is how the attacker will analyze and see the similarities in our message. So let's move on to the next topic. Next is the active attacks. As I said, there are 4 categories. From that, first category is the masquerade. So what happens in masquerade attack is one entity pretends to be another entity. In that, our identity is theft. So Bob sends a message to Alice, but what Dart does is he steals the identity of Bob. Means Alice thinks the message is coming from Bob, but actually Dart is sending the message. He has stolen the identity of Bob. The next category of active attack is replay. So in replay, what happens? A particular event is captured by the attacker and it is resent. So it involves the passive capture of a data unit and its subsequent retransmission to produce an authorized effect. So when Bob is sending a message to Alice, what happens is Dart captures a particular event. So I'll just give you a simple example. So when I'm giving or calling the bank server, or I want to pay someone, so I'm paying 1000 rupees. So what an attacker will do, he will capture the event of paying 1000 rupees and he will retransmit it. So what will happen once I have transferred it, so 1000 rupees will be deducted from my bank, and second time when the attacker retransmits it, means he captured the event and retransmitted, so again 1000 rupees will be deducted from my bank account. So if this is called the replay attack. So here is an example of the replay attack. Alice requests some credentials to the bank server. So what she does, she'll just enter the username and password. So what the attacker will do, he will sniff or he will steal those events. He will capture those events. So this is an example of the replay attack. The third category of this attack is modification. As the name suggests, modification is just altering or making changes to our message. So some part of the original message is altered, or that messages are delayed or reordered. So what attacker does is he delays or he just modifies or changes the messages according to him. But what Alice thinks that the actual message has been come from Bob. But in between, a modification is done by the attacker. Next part is denial of service attack, DOS. So it prevents valid users from accessing services for which they are not eligible for. So for example, I am going to Flipkart and I wish to order something on it. But what the attacker will do, he will frequently be hitting those websites. So I will not be able to access the Flipkart account, because since he is hitting again and again, so the server won't allow or won't send me the request back. So this is an example of DOS, that is denial of service attack. I am an authorized user of Flipkart, but I am not able to access the account because a third party or an attacker is continuously hitting the server. So here Bob wants to access the server, but what Dart is doing, he is continuously hitting or sending the request to server so that the Bob will not be able to access the resources of the server. So these were all the security attacks that were mentioned in the OSI architecture. Now let's move on to the second focus thing, that is the security services. So security services helps in securing our data. Before all these attacks, so those happened initially. So how to be secure, how to secure ourselves? So first is confidentiality, next comes availability, integrity, authentication, non-repudiation and access control. So now let's see what confidentiality actually means. So here only authorized users gets the data. If I am the authorized user, then I will only get the data. So no other person will be able to access my data. The second one is availability. So if I am an authorized user, the resources should be available to me. Next one is integrity. So there should not be any changes in our data or message. Third is authentication. Authentication means ensure the identity or authenticity of the entity. So my identity should not be stolen. Next comes non-repudiation. I cannot deny that I have sent the message. Last one is the access control. Resources are given to the users based on the control. So even in your PC, there is a super user and there is a normal user. So different controls are given to each of the users. So let's see the attacks, what the type is and what is being and for what the threat is. So first is snooping, traffic analysis. As we discussed previously, these two attacks are the type of passive attack. But what is a threat to? If these attacks happen, then it is threat to what? It is threat to the confidentiality, means our identity is being theft, or the data that is being transmitted from the sender to the receiver is being stolen. Second comes the masquerade, modification and replay. These three attacks comes under the active attack, means the modification is done in the message that is being sent from the sender to the receiver. So because of this, the integrity of the data is being stolen. Integrity in the sense, the changes that is made to the data, means our data is not as previous and there is some changes made in it. The last one is the denial of service attack. So it is a type of active attack. So in this, the availability of the resources is being stolen. Okay, thank you.